What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the STR Podcast, otherwise known as the Start the Rebuild Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Fournier, alongside co-host Ian Mills.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Just a quick reminder, make sure to follow us on all of our social medias. Start Rebuild Pod on Twitter, start_the_rebuild on Instagram, or tim.fournier or emills01 on Instagram. There we'll kind of post updates, a little bit of content, links to the content. If you can't find them on Spotify or our YouTube channel, Spotify, just look up Start the Rebuild Podcast, or just insert Ian or Tim. That'll pop up. Same thing on YouTube, Start Rebuild Pod. Either of our names, it should show up. Without further ado, right now we're going to be talking about the mid-round picks that we liked from 2 to 7, and overall draft classes that we really thought, or teams that we really thought killed it in this draft.
Yeah, so I think we're going to have, in the future coming out in a little bit, more draft content, but we thought we'd give a little bit of a general overview of the rest of the draft, rounds 2 through 7, with just some quick hits of some things we liked and some things we didn't like. So without further ado, Ian, I'll have you start with your first guy.
All right, my first guy is Josh Jones, University of Houston tackle, going to the Cardinals. We talked about this in our previous video. We thought he was a first-round guy. We thought he was a first-round talent. And when the Cardinals didn't take a tackle with the 8th pick in the draft and with Isaiah Simmons instead, as much as I love Isaiah Simmons, I thought it was a bit questionable that they didn't go with helping out that offensive line. That's really bad. Still somehow got a first-round talent in the third round. So, I mean, I loved it coming in as a first-round guy, and to get him in the third round is even better. So, quick thought, Cardinals killed it with this pick.
Yeah, for sure. I don't really know how he fell that far. It's kind of weird to me. So our next guy, my guy, Antoine Winfield Jr. from Minnesota, going to the Buccaneers. He's just a really smart player, great safety, great center fielder. He can play in the box. He's an all-around great player. Dad played in the NFL, played for the Bills for a while and Vikings. This is just awesome value in the second round. There's not much else to say. He's just an awesome player. Saw him play firsthand this past year. And yeah, like I said, just awesome value for the Bucs.
I mean, he's the same size as his dad, but an extra 30 pounds. So Jake Fromm going to the Bills, expected to be a second-round guy. He was our 5th-ranked quarterback, right? Yeah, I want to say he was our 5th-ranked quarterback coming in.
He was 4 for us.
I think you're right. I'm trying to think who was 5. Doesn't really matter.
Oh, no, you're right. It was 5.
Yeah, so he was our 5th-ranked quarterback coming in the draft. Falls to the fifth round of the Bills, and I like this for the Bills because, look, going into this season, they're in win-now mode. And the jury is definitely still out on Josh Allen. I'm a huge Josh Allen guy. The jury's still out on him. If they aren't winning, it's gonna be because of Josh Allen. And I'm not saying Jake Fromm is the guy, but we talked about this previously. He's a game manager with the surroundings of with all the surroundings going really well for him. He can succeed. And because of that, I don't think it's a good idea to start him this season by any means, but he's a guy that falling down this low, whether or not you play him, teams will be intrigued because he was a second-round talent later down the road. So, just from a value perspective, and B, potentially, you don't really have a backup quarterback. Matt Barkley struggled last year against the Jets. Overall, I think he could at some point be the starter if Josh Allen doesn't pan out, which I hope he does, but if he doesn't, good backup.
Just to clarify there, you and I agree that he's a second-round talent, but he did go in the 5th round, which was really weird to me. Jets took a guy from, I think, James Madison.
No, it was at Florida International.
Oh, yeah, wrong quarterback.
Yeah.
It was just really weird to me.
The Cowboys took the guy from James Madison.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. Just really weird to me how far he fell. Complete opposite player than Josh Allen, too. He's more of that smart game manager, play in structure, and Josh Allen's the rocket arm guy.
Well, he plays kind of plays like Matt Barkley, to tell you the truth, Jake Fromm.
Mm-hmm. I saw jokes on Twitter. I was talking about how the Bills drafted a QB mentor for Josh Allen.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, Jeff Schwartz.
Yeah.
Biggest Bills hater in the history of the world.
There's a lot of Bills haters for no reason.
I could get into how much I dislike Jeff Schwartz, but I won't do it.
All right. Next one. So here's another one of my guys. Matt Pierre from UConn, actually. Huge frame, 6'7". Played really well this year at right tackle. He's a developmental guy, but I think the Giants got a really good pick here in the third round. Him and Andrew Thomas getting 2 tackles is really awesome. They have Nate Solder still, so he won't start right away. But once Solder's contract is up, I think Pierce should be able, if he develops correctly, to really step in right away, and they'll have a awesome tackle duo potentially for years to come. It's big for Daniel Jones' development if he still ends up being the guy, and obviously for Saquon. This is actually this combination of Andrew Thomas and Matt Pierce. That's why I was looking a little bit on betonline.com, seeing Saquon at plus 1,400, and he was like the 8th running back to be the rushing leader. And I threw a couple dollars down on that. Maybe I'll hit a little bit.
Plus 1,400.
We'll see what happens there.
Plus 1,400. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, Derrick Henry was like plus, I want to say 600. And I was like, he was number 1. Derrick Henry was number 1. So I don't know. I saw that take 2 tackles. They got Will Hernandez still, Kevin Zeitler. They actually have a good alliance looking, and who knows? Saquon, let's run it up this year. Win me some money.
Jason Garrett as the OC, you never know.
Yeah, we'll see about that. Next guy.
I got J.K. Dobbins going to the Ravens.
Love it.
No,
for the Ravens.
Yes,
I don't love J.K. Dobbins, Ohio State, but I like the player.
Not the Buckeye.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, the Ravens' offense revolves around running the ball. And Mark Ingram is a very good running back, but he is more of a power back. And outside of that, obviously, Lamar Jackson, incredibly fast, but he's not a running back. Looking at running backs on that team, you kind of can't find that next guy who can really split the carries. Because at this point in the league, we're kind of looking at teams who have, two running backs so you can spread the carries around, protect their knees and all that. And I think Dobbins, the speed on this guy, he's kind of a modern type of running back where he can catch the ball. And, I mean, honestly, coming into the draft, he was pretty high up there for running back values. Wasn't going to be a first-round pick, obviously, but I like the Ravens getting aggressive, going with a running back here because the rest of the roster is relatively stable. Just building on that team or building on that offense where it's like maybe the only way we beat the Chiefs is if we score 50 and they score 49. So I like that pick a lot. Yeah,
I mean, with the Ravens, they have a pretty well-rounded roster, so I don't hate taking a running back earlier in the draft. Second round's not horrible, and especially with a team like the Ravens with how much they run the ball, I think to maximize that value, maybe it'll be smart to invest higher in a running back like this. I saw him firsthand twice this year playing against Wisconsin. I'm an equipment manager there, so being down on the field, watching Ohio State twice, he's an awesome player, and it was great battles between him and my next player, Jonathan Taylor. So this guy, going to the Colts in the second round, I'll say it, I'm not the biggest believer in, draft a running back highly in the first couple rounds because they're a dime a dozen, running back position's dying, you don't want to pay them. But I'm just so excited to watch this guy play next year behind the Colts offensive line. Chris Ballard, their GM, went to Wisconsin, so I know he knows about how great of a guy Jonathan Taylor is and how great of a player he is. Jonathan Taylor statistically probably had the greatest 3-year stretch in college football history. He was the fastest to 6,000 yards. He averaged 2,000 yards a season 3 years in a row. He's just an absolutely awesome player. I can't wait to see him play on the Colts behind Quentin Nelson and that great offensive line now with Phillip Rivers. I think he's going to be awesome. I can't wait. He's got breakaway speed too at 225, 230. He's going to be a bowling ball going down the field.
All right, so Antonio Gandy Golden out of Liberty. This guy fell-ish in the draft to the Redskins. I was kind of looking just as measurables. The dude's huge, and had put up really good stats in college. And really, the only concern for him was his 40-yard dash. But I mean, I wanted the Bills to take him. Unfortunately, to Gabriel Davis, who actually I do like as well. But Antonio getting the golden here, I think it makes sense because you look at the Washington offense, whatever. Haskins, is he the guy or not, or is Kyle Allen the guy or not? They probably assume not, but you have to give the guy a chance to see if he really is. And I think this is one of those red zone guys that almost every young guy needs to have a big target. And just potentially just toss it up to him. And, I like him just from a perspective of value and a fit for a team that just needs to figure out whether their guy is, whether or not their quarterback is the guy of the future.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a sleeper. My next guy, another Ravens draft pick, Devin Duvernay out of Texas. He played a lot in the slot. He played outside too. Really fast. I think he ran 4.39 at the combine. So he's just adding to the track speed that the Ravens have, pairing up with obviously Lamar Jackson and then Marquise Brown, who's a speedster. Miles Boykin is also he ran like a 4.4. They're just absolutely building a track team. I thought he was awesome. He was at an awesome value in the third round. He's a good contested catch guy too. He's really good all-around receiver. I'm really excited to watch him play. I think he has maybe a little bit of like backfield potential too. It'd be interesting to see like running around on jet sweeps, or I know the Ravens offense is super creative, so I'm sure they could find a way to use him in different ways. Get him in the screen game too. Like I said, I just think he was an awesome value.
All right, so these are some players picks we don't love, as I don't love. With Jalen Hurts, I like him as a player. I like him as a prospect. He's a good guy and all that. Going this high in the draft, 53rd overall to the Eagles, kind of confuses me for a couple of reasons. Obviously, the Eagles need a backup quarterback, and obviously they value that in Nick Foles, and I understand that. But again, drafting Hurts this high is a bit of a head scratcher in my opinion. To go off of that as well, I feel like their team, the biggest needs they had was defensive backfield and receivers, and they got Rager and trade for Marquise Goodwin. In my eyes, I thought they were going to probably try to get Trayvon Diggs in the second. Unfortunately, he was taking 2 picks ahead of them, and I think they were just kind of sitting there like, now what do we do? I think their plan was to take a quarterback in this draft, but probably not this high. And I think it probably was they in their minds, well, Hurts is our guy. Let's just take him here. And my concern is, I don't think Hurts is an incredibly accurate quarterback. And, a lot of people are saying, he's going to be a gadget guy. But you don't want your backup quarterback to be a gadget guy, because if your starter gets hurt, then this guy already has a bunch of tread on his tires. So I know Doug Peterson is, a guy to take risks, and he's got huge cojones and all that. But I don't know. To me, it felt like a reach, and they kind of just settled here. Again, I don't think he's going to be necessarily a bad player by any means, but second round felt high to me.
Yeah. It's a little confusing still having Wentz there. There's one team in the NFL that should know how important it is to have a backup quarterback. It's definitely the Eagles. So it's kind of a little bit of a safety net. Obviously, they won a Super Bowl with their backup quarterback in Nick Foles. So I guess that's kind of the thought process there. Maybe if Hurts has a couple good preseason games, they can trade him and get some value out of him. I mean, they traded Sam Darnold for a first-round pick a couple years ago. Sam Bradford, sorry. So, I mean, I guess I see the thought process there, but I feel like that maybe would have been smart if he fell to them in the third or something. The second was a little bit too high for me. When you're a contending team, you might be able to find someone that can help a little bit more,
contribute
on a game-to-game basis. All right. My first guy is Logan Wilson, a linebacker from Wyoming, going to the Bengals in the third round. And I don't necessarily have a huge problem with him as a player. I think he's fine. Pretty good in the run game. I guess he's all right in coverage. He's fine. He's whatever. He's a decent linebacker. But the reason I don't like this pick is because Josh Jones was still on the board at the top of the third round. Like, I don't know why the Bengals didn't look at him. I thought the Bengals might even take him in the first pick of the second round, but instead they went Logan Wilson. I think Joe Burrow would have benefited greatly from having a great pass protector like Josh Jones. And I think that would have helped the team out a lot more than Logan Wilson. I know there's always the Bengals have had linebacker problems for it seems like their entire existence. So I guess they're feeling the need there, but I just think Josh Jones would have been much more valuable to this team.
Yeah, a bit of a missed opportunity, I would say there.
Yeah.
Okay, this is, for me, this is one of the worst picks in the draft. And I know, you gotta trust Bill Belichick.
Yeah, what do you mean? It's Bill. You can't question anything he does.
Exactly right. You can't question the dog. That was the picture.
Maybe this is his quarterback for this year.
Yeah, you never know. So Justin Rowasser, kicker out of Marshall, wasn't even the best kicker in the draft considered. Taken in the 5th round, before, mind you, Jake Fromm, Jake Gluten, Cole McDonald, Ben DiNucci, Tommy Stevens, and Nate Stanley. So, 6 quarterbacks were taken after him. And Jake Fromm was taken like 10 picks after him. Okay, so you're taking a kicker in the 5th round. Kickers typically you draft don't pan out. It's a hit or miss, whatever. You can say the same thing about quarterbacks. Quarterbacks, again, are a much more important position than kicker, especially when your starter and now is Jarrett Stidham, who's about as improved as you can get. That being said, Belichick says after the draft that we were planning on taking a quarterback. They just didn't fall to us. Jake Fromm was there. I'm not even saying Jake Fromm is an incredible quarterback. I talked about how I did like him going to the Bills. I would have liked Jake Fromm going to the Patriots too. And then furthermore, this Rowasser guy, he's a kicker, and he has apparently character issues. The dude has like a hate symbol tattooed on him. Apparently
he saw that too.
It's why? Okay, first off, it's just the entire thing is, unless he's like Justin Tucker level of good, it's probably not going to be worth it. I'm not even saying like Jake Fromm is going to pan out. I'm not even saying this guy's going to be a horrible kicker, although he wasn't the best ranked kicker, and although a 5th round pick is a reach for him, it's just like you could have gotten so much better for him. And also a character issued kicker is about as baffling as you can get.
I don't know, man. Maybe Bill's just a mastermind, and it's just going to be the ultimate FU to Tom Brady, and he's going to just put this guy in a QB, and just say, I can win with anybody.
Yeah,
maybe that's the ultimate plan.
Trust in the Husky.
Or he's just absolutely going to tank this year and tank for Trevor, which Colin Cowherd is convinced is going to happen, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll find out.
The next guy, I have Cam Akers. I don't necessarily hate him as a player. I wasn't super high on him. I know he had kind of a rough team around him at Florida State with a really bad O-line, and he was I think he was the number 1 running back in his high school recruiting class. But the Rams taking him in the 2nd round, the Rams have such a tight cap problems that taking a running back as your first pick in the draft, it's in the 2nd round, but it's their first pick, not taking a more valuable position of need where you save yourself some money down the road. I think that was just a really mind-boggling pick. And I don't even think he was the best running back on the board. Zach Moss was still there, who the Bills ended up taking, who I really like.
Yeah.
I forgot he was still on the board, but this just seemed
J.K. Dobbins was still on the board?
Jiggy Downs is still on the board. I just did not understand this pick whatsoever. From the perspective of, I didn't love him as a player. I didn't think he was the best player on the board at his position. And I think it's going to hurt them down the line in the future. It's not even, I don't know. This did not make any sense to me, personally.
Yeah, I agree with that. My next pick is a very similar, it's the same position, similar value in A.J. Dillon going to the Packers. First off, doesn't make sense that the Packers went running back when they have Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones and really don't have any. I mean, they have some receivers, but really outside of Devontae Adams, they're pretty barren with pass catchers. we discussed, you kind of in this win. You want to be in this win now mode, and if you want to take Jordan Love, that's fine. I actually like Jordan Love going in the first, but outside of that, you have to realize, well, we're still a team that went to the NFC Championship game. We can still win games. And not that A.J. Dillon, is horrible. I don't think he's a great prospect. I mean, especially when, we were just talking, Zach Moss is still on the board. I think Zach Moss is better than him. And you can even wait and get Michael Pirine in the fourth that went to the Jets, who I think is at least a comparable talent. It's just, if it's – Denzel Mims was picked right before this. If I'm looking right now, receivers that were available, Antonio Gibson, Lynn Bowden, Gabriel Davis. I mean, Denzel Mims was taking 3 picks before this. There were valuable receivers on the board at this point.
Devin Duvernay is still there?
Yeah, to go running back here. Yeah, I missed that one. To go running back here is head-scratching to me, especially when you have 2 starting worthy running backs with – maybe 1 starting receiver.
Yeah. Not only is he at a position that is not highly valued, he's at a position that they don't need. He was picked. He wasn't the best running back on the board. It was way too high to take this player. You could have gotten him later in the draft. You need to help your Hall of Fame quarterback. And, that fan base was already split from taking Jordan Love in the first round, but at least you could have salvaged it by then trying to help Aaron Rodgers out later on through the draft. And this is what you come back with your next pick. It was just disgusting, honestly. I know you got the 49ers ran the ball all over you in the NFC Championship, and I guess they could be trying to emulate what Kyle Shanahan does in the run game, and that's why they also drafted a guy in the 3rd round who they're thinking is going to be their Kyle Juszczyk fullback guy. But this did not make any sense to me.
Quick, speaking of the Niners, where Matt Breida got traded where again?
Dolphins.
Okay.
Yeah. So this did not make any sense to me.
The whole draft was kind of
for the Packers was just, I don't even know what they're doing. I liked the Love pick, but after that it was just they just threw it in the garbage. So then my last pick that I wasn't a big fan of is Cole Kmet from Notre Dame, going to the Bears with their first pick of the draft, which was in the 2nd round. I will say that they had another 2nd-round pick, and they picked Jalen Johnson, the cornerback from Utah, who I do really, really like. So I loved that pick. But this pick was kind of weird to me. They already had 9 tight ends on the roster. This makes it 10, which is ridiculous. I think this was a horrible tight end class to begin with. I guess Cole Kmet is a decent player. I could see him carving out a decent role on the Bears. But to take him that highly for a player that I don't really love, that just puts you straight in the dislike pile for me. I don't know. I think there was much more valuable players left on the board.
I don't disagree. I mean, you just traded for Jimmy Graham. You have Adam Shaheen on the roster. It is. I mean, they just cut who was it? Trey Burton that they cut, but still, I mean, there's bigger problems with that roster than tight end.
Yeah. I just didn't see this pick at all to me. All right, so next we are getting into 2 teams that we think had potentially the best drafts. So I'll let Ian start with the Broncos.
Right, so the Denver Broncos coming into this season, they went 7-9 last year. Chances of them winning the division this year probably slim to none, but they're playing against Pat Mahomes twice a year, and that Chiefs offense scores a lot. And the only way a lot of people are thinking the only way you can really beat the Chiefs right now is to outscore them. And Drew Lock showed enough flash last year in the limited games he did play to think that maybe he is the guy. And Cortland Sutton is a good receiver. Noah Fant's a good tight end, but it's not really enough. And Phillip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon I think are very good as well. Although Melvin Gordon I don't love going there, but the more talent the better, I guess. For them to go with Jerry Jeudy in the first, I thought that was a great idea. Pair him with Courtland Sutton, you get two really good receivers. Jerry Jeudy, potentially the best receiver in the draft, going at 15. That's a steal. Thanks to your in-division rival going with Ruggs at 12. Then in the second round, you come back and go KJ Hamler, who I love. KJ Hamler is an incredibly fast guy out of Penn State, who in my mind was one of the better receivers out of that, second round echelon where it was just kind of depth guys. I think KJ Hamler goes into the slot, just a fast guy to pair with Jeudy. I mean, Jeudy can kind of move around too, but to give Drew Lock as many weapons as you possibly can. I thought that was a great idea. Losing Chris Harris Jr. And to go to Michael Ojemudia in the
Iowa.
What's that?
From Iowa. That's all.
Yeah. Cornerback in the third round. I thought, just a depth pick. I don't mind it. I mean, I'm not in love with him by any means, but it filled a need to go down.
He's got the tools to be a good player.
Yeah. I don't know much about him, but I mean, I think, it is a position filled that is necessary. Lloyd Cushenberry, center at LSU, played with Joe Burrow last year. I mean, offensive line can never really go wrong with that. And down the stretch, I think that it made some really good decisions. Another receiver drafted in the 7th round, Tyree Cleveland. One concern I did have for them, the only thing that you can really fault them in is they didn't go with tackle. They did go with a guard and with a center, one kind of in interior offensive line, when they might have needed a little outer offensive line. But it is what it is. John Elway has shown that he isn't the best drafter in the world. Although Drew Lock last year seems to be the right pick over Haskins. It's probably too early to tell, but it seems that way right now. Again, this is probably John Elway's best draft so far. Out of his entire draft in 6 seasons, he has one Pro Bowl player drafted. So the guy hasn't had much success. But I see this and I think, you're giving the guy you drafted last year enough to build around it.
Yeah. Just a few of those picks you talked about. They also got really good he's a really athletic tight end in Albert Okwuegbunam from Missouri. Albert O, I'll just call him. He is a really good athlete. I think he could maybe have a role behind Noah Fant. And in the 6th round, they got Netane Muti from Fresno State, who is an absolute road grader. You could look him up on Twitter. PFF tweeted it out, and one of the guys from PFF, and they called it O-line porn because he just absolutely dominates, and it is so much fun to watch him. I've never seen an offensive lineman have so many legitimate highlights where he's just absolutely tossing people around. He's one of my favorite players in the draft. He fell a lot because of injury concerns, but if he can get on the field, that's great for him, and he can really help the Broncos out, I think. But overall, the Broncos are really building a solid core around Drew Lock. And from this podcast going forward, you might hear some Broncos playoff hype. Who knows? And now with our second team, I got the Dallas Cowboys. I think they had an absolutely awesome draft. So in the first round, CeeDee Lamb falls right into their laps, and they get arguably the best receiver in the draft by many people's accounts. I think he's an awesome player. I think this puts maybe Amari Cooper. Maybe he can play in the slot a little bit more. I think he's awesome there because he creates so much separation that'll really help Dak out too, I think. And then I talked about this in the last episode, that two of their corners and their top two safeties are all on a 1-year contract, so they really, really, really needed to refill in the secondary. So in the second round, they picked Trayvon Diggs, who is a really good corner out of Alabama, who is a good athlete. He can play in press zone. He fits the Cowboys scheme perfectly, and a lot of people even had them looking at him at 17 in the first round. So they got an absolute steal there. And in the third round, they got Neville Gallimore, a defensive tackle from Oklahoma, and he is a really good athlete. once he figures it out, I think he can be a really good player. He's one of my favorite players in the draft. He kind of gets bussed through the line and has no idea where he's going, but I think learning behind Gerald McCoy that they signed now, he can be a really big impact player in the future. They also traded up with the Eagles and drafted Wisconsin offensive lineman Tyler Biadasz, who is now going to be replacing Travis Frederick, another former Wisconsin Badger center. And I think this was just perfect value. Before this year started, this past college season, he was like fringe first round pick, and I think he fell farther in this draft than people were expecting. And he's just an all around good player. I don't think it's fair to say that he's gonna, live up to Travis Frederick being one of the best centers in the NFL. But I think he'll come in day one and be a really good replacement. And then the last pick that I really liked from them was Bradley Anae from Utah. I think he's just a solid edge rusher. Replace Robert Quinn. And just be a high floor guy that I think that can come in and help this team out. Overall, I think after having a really underwhelming draft last year, this year Jerry Jones from his private yacht absolutely knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, from his spaceship where he just was constantly fighting with his kids for some reason. I think he did a good job. Bradley and I projected to go probably about 50 picks higher dropping. I like that. And then
they just found amazing value with almost every pick they had.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's. I feel like every year we look at the Cowboys and it's like, oh, they have top 5 position in every position, or top 5 value in every position. But it's like, well, they don't have much depth at all. Like they have really outside of their starters, they have no much. And I like this, especially with Byron Jones leaving. And one thing I wish they could have gone with safety. Jeff Heath, I don't know how much I'm believing, but.
He's gone now, but
I was gonna say I thought so.
Yeah, they signed Clinton Dix, but I think he's on a 1-year contract.
Yeah,
and so is Xavier Woods. So they really need depth, like you're saying.
Yeah, safety I would have liked to have seen. But yeah, I mean with the pretty much outside of their last pick in Ben DiNucci, who's just gonna probably be a practice squad quarterback, and then CeeDee Lamb, they went defense, which I liked because their offense for the most part was relatively stacked, comparatively.
They have a really well-rounded roster, and I think they just really bolstered it, and they got some needs, they got some depth, and like I said before, it's just awesome value with almost every pick.
Yeah.
All right, so that was kind of a brief overview of some things we liked and disliked with the rest of the draft. I think we'll have some more draft content coming out and getting into more specifics with some other teams, but that's all we have for today.
All
right, see you guys.